contraception and abortion were well known in Rome. For example, a woman might insert olive oil, honey, or any clogging fluids into the vagina, or use pessaries of wool. One doctor suggested wearing the liver of a cat in a tube on the left foot. While abortion and contraception were almost certainly limited to the rich, all classes, particularly the poor, resorted to exposure. Some people found it profitable to look for exposed infants in the down dumps and raise them as slaves or for sale. In legal documents, slaves are frequently designated as being from the dump. Cincinnati, Ohio is named after a great figure of Rome, Cincinnatus, 519 to 438 BC. While plowing his fields, he was made dictator and placed in charge of the war against the Volsci and Aquae. He did the job in 16 days, left his powerful position, and went back to the plow. The month of August was originally named Sextilis from Sextus, but was renamed in honor of the Roman Emperor Augustus. January is named after the Roman god of beginnings, Janus, who had two faces, one looking back to the old year and the other looking forward to the new year. April is from the Latin aprire, which means to open, perhaps referring to the opening of flowers. One of Rome's most famous and significant archaeological feats was the Cloaca Maxima, greatest sewage, which was an ancient sewer system. It was thought to be presided over by the goddess Cloacina, literally sewer or drain. As well as controlling the sewers, she was responsible for protecting sexual intercourse in marriage. The word palace comes from the Palatine Hill, where Augustus established the emperor's tradition of building their palaces. The Colosseum had a large sunroof that could be stretched over the crowd to keep spectators in the shade. The Colosseum took 12 years to build, and the exit time for all 70,000 spectators was only 3 minutes. The Circus Maximus could seat nearly 250,000 fans. In its passageways and arches under the seats, cooks and prostitutes catered to the fans' other needs. Wealthy Roman women would smear lead paste on their faces to look fashionably pale. They might also use ass milk or crushed snails as a facial moisturizer. Crushed ant eggs were often used to highlight women's eyebrows. Toothpaste was regularly used by those who could afford it. Nitrum, probably either potassium or sodium carbonate, was burned and rubbed on the teeth to restore color. The Romans did not use soap to get rid of sweat and grime. They would cover themselves with oil and then scrape off the oil with a special scraper made of metal, wood, or bone called srigil. Romans invented central heating and would warm rooms from under the floor using what was called hypocaust, literally heat from below. Homes of some rich people had both running water and central heating. Some wealthy women often wore wigs made from the blonde hair of foreign slaves. Slaves could also dye a woman's hair blonde or red by blowing powder onto it. Slaves could be tortured for styling hair poorly. Some men were advised to use hippopotamus skin to make hair grow. citizenship if he deserted the army, mutilated himself so he could not serve, or dodged a census to evade taxation. Girls were expected to marry at the age of 13 or 14 in arranged marriages. Strewing nuts, symbolic of the casting off of childish toys and of fertility, was an important part of the wedding. The bride wore a saffron-colored wedding gown with a flame red veil over her hair. In Roman custom, a bride was carried over a threshold for good luck with the words Ubi te bios ego Gaia, where you are, John, there I am, Mary. Tripping over a threshold was considered bad luck. Roman divorce was quick and easy. Either party merely uttered to the other the Latin phrase tuas res tibi habeto, keep what's yours for yourself. If there were any children, they remained with the father, though the dowry was returned to the woman provided she had not committed adultery. Romans thought that not owning slaves was a sign of extreme poverty. Many people would take 3 slaves with them just to go to the bath. Land ownership was so important that almost all Roman citizens owned at least a small plot. The practice of agriculture was said to have developed the hardy nature of the typical Roman. Greeks thought that when non-Greeks spoke, they were mumbling words that sounded like the indeterminate barber, which led to the Roman word barbarian. Crimes such as treason or desertion were punishable by beheading or crucifixion, but only criminals without Roman citizenship, such as Jesus of Nazareth, were crucified because that death was slow and painful. Built by the Emperor Hadrian 118 to 125, the Pantheon, Temple of the Gods, is remarkable because its massive dome is made of concrete that has withstood the elements for almost 2,000 years with no steel reinforcing. The Parthenon was the largest concrete curved dome in existence until the 19th century. When the Roman Empire began to fall, inflation dramatically increased. Between AD 200 and 280, the price of a bale of wheat rose from 16 to 120,000 drachmas. Careers for Roman women outside the home included priestesses and lamp makers. They were also professional midwives, hairdressers, and even a few doctors. The Romans trained some female slaves to fight as gladiators. Romans were generally affectionate towards their pets, especially their cats and dogs. Some Roman dogs even wore identity tags in case they got lost. One bronze tag read, "Hold me if I run away and return me to my master Viventius on the estate of Callistus." For the Romans, a circus was a chariot racetrack, not the tented entertainment venue of today. After criticizing Rome's transition from a republic to an empire, the famous philosopher rhetorician Cicero was murdered and had his head and hands displayed on the rostra in the Forum Romanum. It is rumored that Fulvia, the wife of influential Roman politician Antony, pulled out Cicero's tongue and stabbed it repeatedly with her hairpin. The Colosseum, originally the Flavian Amphitheater, took its name from the Latin word colossus, meaning giant statue. A huge statue of Nero stood near the stadium, giving it its nickname. After the fall of Rome, Latin continued in a variety of dialects, which later developed into Romanesque languages such as Portuguese, Romanian, Italian, French, and Spanish. Though not directly related, Latin also significantly influenced English. There seems to be no such as an emperor, would more likely gesture with a thumb turned horizontally, probably in a striking motion towards the heart, or cover or compress his thumb as a signal to